Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joy at Work. It's good to have you again. Today, I want to talk about the fine print. If you've bought a house or engaged in some transaction where a property changed hands or things like that, even bought a car, you're often given a bunch of documentation that you need to sign and then turn over. And when you sign it, it basically means you've gone into a contract or an agreement or whatever it is. And as someone reminded me recently, most of us don't take the time to read the fine print, right? The fine print's that stuff on page 212 at the bottom that no one reads, but it's actually probably maybe the most important part of that document because what it outlines is what your exposure would be if things went wrong, right? So many of us sign these documents assuming that things are going to go right. And so we don't pay attention to the fine print. You see the fine print as well with, drugs and medications. When you listen to those commercials on TV when they tell you about how some drug stops balding or something like that. And then at the very end, the announcer or the person with that commercial quickly goes over everything that could go wrong, right? But very, very quickly. That again is a fine print. So we find fine print in society and everywhere where we're doing this because people are legally obliged to tell us what could go wrong or what our exposure would be. It just so happens because generally speaking, most of the time things go right. We just don't pay attention to the fine print. We just don't read it that often, except you have a legal background or something like that. Well, did you know that organizations have fine print as well? These are the things that are hidden that you don't see, right? You go for an interview, you see everybody playing ping pong, and you think, hey, this is a really fun environment. But it could be that it was just a stage or a setup. And the fine print might be that people only play ping pong when their bosses are on vacation or people are offsite at a meeting. Because how dare you play ping pong when people could see you doing that, right? Every organization has its fine print, but organizations generally won't tell you what their fine print looks like. And so it's up to you, especially those of you who are looking for new jobs at this point, who are trying to make a career change or work somewhere new. It's up to you to identify what the blueprint, what the fine print, every organization has a blueprint as well, but understand what the fine print for that organization is. And the best way to do that, or the best ways to do that, is through owning the interview process as well. Don't go into an interview as if it's a one-sided affair, as if you need to prove why they shouldn't hire you. Yeah, that's part of the package, but your potential employer should prove to you why you should want to work there. And these are the questions you should ask. And you should ask real questions. And you should ask for the permission to talk to people who actually do the work. You should ask for permission to talk to people who might not even be part of your interview panel. You should ask for permission to probably walk around and see how people are interacting with each other. You should ask for stories that say, hey, tell me how people get rewarded when they do something good, and tell me how people get disciplined when they don't do something good, right? Like if you're in software engineering, you should ask, how often do you deploy to production? What's that process like? You should ask, what tools do I have? How often do I get to speak to the people who are actually using my software, as an example, right? Own the interview process as well. Many folks go into interviews intending to please whoever's interviewing them. And that's an important part of it. But you also need to go into the interview trying to understand the fine print of the organization. Again, you don't have the opportunity in many cases to, temp with that org for a few weeks and figure out what they're about. Your interview process is your one shot to get what they're about. So go in there like a detective, go with your magnifying glass and try to understand what the fine print actually says. You'll be better for it, and it probably increases your chances of actually finding joy at work. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.